Talking those until 10 on the Morning Extra on Xtra 106.3, joined by Congressman Rich McCormick this morning. How are you, sir? Good to have you.
I'm good. Good to be with you. Thanks.
Yes, sir. We just did a segment about people looking for community. We talked about people that are lashing out, doing crazy things.
Like doxing ICE agents.
Yeah, that and threatening to kill the president. Just all kinds of things. There's a dude up in Rome, Georgia, that the FBI had to go make a visit to. All of these people are struggling with mental health issues. It's so clear. It's so obvious. And I know this is a big issue, and I know it's an issue that you've talked about, specifically when it comes to D.C. and the craziness that's happening up there. I don't know where we go. I mean, how do we help people? How do we reel them in? How do we get them away from these crazy thoughts and ideas? Do you have any suggestions, any ideas? Are you working on any legislation that might help some of these people? Because it is becoming such a scary situation when it's Rome, Georgia, that people like this are popping up.
Yeah, so this has been a problem for a very long time. First of all, we got rid of our sanatoriums because they were abused. They became kind of the symbol of evil almost. And so now as an ER doctor, I was having this problem when I was in the ER, and it wasn't that long ago, only a little bit over 2 years ago before I came into Congress, where I would have the same people come in over and over and over again. What would happen is they'd become unstable. They would get arrested. They would come to the ER. We'd have to restrain them, sedate them, put them in a special part of the ER where, of course, they would beat up nurses and they'd beat up other patients unless you kept them strapped to a gurney, which you can't do indefinitely. You'd eventually have them admitted to a psychiatric facility. Of course, that would take a long time because they have no funding and they have no insurance typically. A lot of times they're homeless. And then they would get them, quote, unquote, healthy over a few days. They would discharge them from the psychiatric facility, and then it starts over again. They don't have good follow-up because they're not stable people to begin with. And, of course, they would go out and commit crimes or do something crazy again, be very dangerous to themselves or to other people until they get brought back to me, and it starts over again. It's probably one of the most expensive ways we treat a health condition ever. Imagine everything being done through the emergency room where you get boarded and then wait to be placed in a facility and then start it all over again. That's what I was dealing with on a regular occasion. And realize the average murderer has been arrested multiple times before they actually commit a murder. That's just the typical murderer. Usually it's an escalation in some sort of problem they already have, whether it be societal or mental health. And you can say it's a combination of both. And let me give you an example of that. Typically, when we were growing up, back in my generation, Generation X and beyond, we were raised by our parents to have multiple responsibilities. You're serving the family. You're going to do the yard work. You're going to paint the house. You're going to go get your parent a beer, whatever it is, but you were serving the family. Now, since we have fewer kids and the kids are kind of like doted over, they're told how good looking they're going to be, how successful they're going to be, how much money they're going to make, how good they are at sports. It's all about them. And then it's compounded by Facebook or whatever media accounts they have that they get to post about them. And then when they get out in society, they realize nobody else really cares about you the same way your parents did. They become either depressed, anxious, suicidal, start using drugs and alcohol. And once again, there's about a quarter to a third of my patients in the ER right now. All that compounded by societal and mental health issues, that's what's kind of created this perfect storm of what we have today in society.
Congressman Dr. Rich McCormick joins us right here on the Morning Extra. And since the last time you joined us, we've now had the amount of law enforcement that has now shown up in D.C. I was there probably 6 months ago, and we were told very simply, you don't go out at night. This is how it is in this community. To see what has changed in the last week and a half, I think it is one of the biggest political victories that Donald Trump has had to show the rest of the country if you push law enforcement, it can be effective in cleaning up communities. What say you?
It's surprising that nobody else really thought about this. I remember when I was first in D.C., I was stationed in Quantico, Virginia, and Marion Barry was the mayor of D.C. Imagine that. This guy's a guy who got put in jail for a short period because he was arrested as mayor using crack and hanging out with prostitutes. and was stripped and bankrupt his country, his city simultaneously.
And then got back to being mayor.
It's crazy. Everybody remembers that. But contrast to when Rudy Giuliani took over New York City and cleaned up crime by increasing police presence. There's always a correlation between the police presence, their willingness to go into neighbors, their feeling that their bosses, the government, have their backs when they arrest somebody, that they're not going to get in trouble. The criminal is actually going to get in trouble, and crime goes down. And if you let people get away with small things, and there's tons of psychology books on this, but when you let people get away with small things, they'll do worse things. That's just the way psychology works. And so to not allow people to go out there and harass you, to do small crimes, to steal things, will keep people actually from doing violent crimes. And that's a good thing. And it's surprising that nobody's done that in D.C. pretty much ever. And it's just become a progressively worse city to live in, to the point where, as you mentioned, I don't have too many people that I know or staff members that live out in town that haven't at least been harassed, if not chased to their cars, or actually violently opposed by somebody out there. And a lot of them have mental health issues.
Tug and Los on the Morning Extra until 10, joined by Dr. Rich McCormick, Georgia 7 representative. The Democrat Party seems to be in a really bad way. And their answer for voters leaving the party at a pretty incredible clip, I'm sure you saw the article out of the New York Times where they're trying to figure it out. Like, why are people leaving us so rapidly? And their answer so far, everything I've seen, is their answer is, let's embrace socialism. I even heard Barack Obama talking about it yesterday in the Washington Post. How do you see the Democrats when they are saying, okay, we're going to give up on this America thing and we're going to embrace socialism? What is their rationale for this? Is it just because they have no place else to go?
Is it the only place they're finding energy?
The irony is it is the most popular item in their party right now because the way that our children have been conditioned to redistribute wealth. It gives you a perfect example of why capitalism, for example, when I was my oldest son was in school, and he said, and this is I'm not going to tell you what school because it's kind of embarrassing for I'll tell you, and it's been corrected since, but it was University of North Georgia. He was in school, and he sent me a photo from his classroom, and North Georgia is not known to be a liberal school.
That's a military school, or at least it was originally.
One of the elite Army academies, and of course it has other students too in the civilian, but it had a slide from the lecture that said capitalism is racist. That was being taught in school at a fairly conservative school. Now, they figured it out since then because I've actually talked to their new president. He's fantastic. He's running that school very well, a former Army guy. And but that was what was being taught in school, and that was being taught widespread. And so the younger generation, the millennials and those guys were all embracing this idea that government's the answer to your problems. And the problem is that when you do that, you grow government, and the government's going to ultimately disappoint you, and then you turn back to the government to solve the problem that it created. That's socialism. Now, the only way that you can ever succeed in that, if you want to call it success, is when people become unhappy with you, you have to grab more power to try to solve more problems. And as people become more and more unhappy, you have to take more and more control, which results in communism. The problem is right now, the Democrats have picked so many weird fights where you're saying, oh, it's a good idea to have men dressed like women who are not happy with their bodies go hang out in women's locker rooms. They think that it's a good idea to basically take this idea that you're going to solve the fiscal problems by taking all the money from people who have made money and giving it to people who have not. And that's going to be your solution. And typically that doesn't create jobs. It doesn't create wealth. Now, I'll tell you the spending problem that we have in government is actually a bipartisan problem. But the Democrats keep on doubling down on failed policies. And socialism is a failed policy, but it's the ugliest of it's the prettiest of their ugly babies that they have. And so they're latching on to the one thing that they know is more popular because everything else they've chosen has been wildly unpopular. Open borders has been a dismal failure and a drain on our society, increased crime, increased disease. and really lopsided our voting districts. That's really unpopular. This whole transgender thing, you can see them kind of coming around to the center on that, so they have to find their next mantra. And unfortunately, the only thing left for them that has any popularity because of our education system is socialism.
Congressman Dr. Rich McCormick is our guest right here on the Morning Extra, and I know that you're inundated with this on a regular basis, but I'm kind of curious if you've kind of gotten the feel for what's going on. I firmly believe that patriotism is on its way back in this country. It feels like it's skyrocketing. And part of that is this administration and their ability to create peace around the world. Obviously, with the meetings that went on in reference to the Russian-Ukraine war, it looks like we might be moving a little bit closer, hopefully, to a resolution there. And I think that's another one of those, the feather in the cap of this country of perhaps the United States is the only place in the world that can actually get a peace deal done, and it's a reason for patriotism in this country.
Yeah, it's amazing. Trump has actually hit a lot of nerves with everybody in good ways and bad ways. But I think when you hear some crazy statements that he kind of trolls the media with, he loves doing that. He actually's got a good sense of humor, and he actually enjoys kind of punching back on the media. But what he's done with peace around the world, that is something that only America can do because of our economic might. Yes, we have a strong military, but think about how powerful it is to not even be in a war when I'm saying, I'm going to make your life very difficult unless you come to peace terms. He did that with Thailand and Cambodia, which I'm going to actually this week to talk about their economy, talk about the relationships with China, talk about their trade. He's done it with India and Pakistan. He's done it with Israel and Hamas. He's done it with Ukraine and Russia. Pretty much every hotspot around the world, he's leaned on the leaders to come to terms quickly because he does not like war, and he wants to. He wants that to be part of his legacy. He'll actually leverage the largest economy by far. We have a $27 trillion economy compared to 17 from China, and then the next we're down at 5, and there's a couple countries down there, and then India's on the way up. But we have that power right now, and he uses it. He's popularized that. And a guy who's kind of hit the mainstream youth movement, where whether it be MMA, WWE, and all those things like that, he's starting to popularize the Republican movement in ways we haven't seen since the Reagan era.
So in my own interest, if there is a possibility where Dr. Rich McCormick is able to score, let's just say, Ultimate Fighting tickets for next July, I would like to be on the short list of invitees.
Or is it available for an invite? Maybe. I don't know.
I had the pay-per-view this past weekend, okay? Like, I want to find my way into this one.
My best friend literally said the same thing yesterday to me.
Of course they did. Of course they did. I would imagine there's going to be lots of knocks on your door. Final thing. Go ahead.
By the way, it's very cool all of a sudden to be a Republican. When Dana White, who I met at the parade, the military parade, cool guy, really cool guy, reached out to him on his birthday. I'm like, happy birthday, just thinking, he's never going to answer. He answered right away. He's like,
that's cool.
Thank you so much. And we're gonna have. I'm gonna go fly out to Vegas, and we're gonna go to an MMA fight with Dana White. I think that's the coolest thing ever.
Oh, that is
cool. Awesome. It's funny. I said this. I don't know. It's probably been a year and a half ago now, and it turned out to be true. I said long time ago, Rolling Stone was the counterculture, right? When you would read about them, they were talking about being countercultural and how to do things a particular way, and all of a sudden, in the last probably year and a half, I've noticed that being Republican is countercultural. We're doing all the things that reject, big government or whatever it is. It's cool. It's like we talk about Michael J. Fox's character on TV on Family Ties. It's become cool to be a Republican. I don't want to say own the culture, but we certainly are at the forefront of it.
Gen X, we're in charge, and this has actually become a cool factor for us.
And that goes back to kind of the Trump factor and the fact that they keep on picking some really weird fights.
Yeah.
When America finally, when Trump was able to punch back and say, no, that's ridiculous. We're not going to have women knocking out men or men knocking out women in sports. We're not going to see those records stolen. And America goes, yeah, why are we doing that? And then Trump starts getting involved in these really fun things and dominating the media cycle and actually having a sense of humor and actually being involved, being available to press daily. he's kind of made it cool. And hopefully the rest of us follow suit. A lot of people who try to copy Trump, though, underperform. So you kind of got to be your own authentic person.
Sure. There you go. Dr. Rich McCormick, we appreciate your time today. You know what I should ask you? Is there anything that you wanted to hit, anything that we've left out, that we've skipped over that needs to be addressed?
You know, I just want to always be the herald and point out that we have a massive problem coming up, probably not this presidency, but next. Mark my words, we have Medicare about to go bankrupt. We have Social Security about to go bankrupt. We have a budgetary crisis with debt that is bipartisan in nature. Started back in 2004 during George W. Bush, that massive spending increase. If we don't do something as a nation, as a bipartisan commission, we're in trouble. So I know everything's going great right now, but there are some things that are lurking there, and we got to be very savvy to address those things as soon as possible.
And I want to ask you about that just really quickly to be able to just kind of hit on this, because I keep bringing up the numbers. The issue we have with our birth rate, we're going to have, unless we reform these things, we're going to have a problem where we will not have enough workers, in my opinion, to take care of the older people that are on this. Is that how the math is basically looking for people in D.C.?
Fact. And it's, by the way, it's all over the world. There's only a couple. There's India and the continent of Africa that's expanding. Everything else is going down, and that's why we've plateaued as a world population, which is not a bad thing. The problem is when you're declining rapidly, you have most of the economies, major economies of the world, China, Japan, Korea, Germany, you name it, the main economies, they all have massively shrinking populations. And when that happens and AI can't keep up with the replacement of jobs or wealth, you're going to have a collapse of the economy that's very predictable. And we got to be more creative in the way we address it. And increasing spending above revenue is not the right answer.
That's the wrong answer for sure. We got to get that under control, which we talk about a lot here on this show, too.
That's after the fight, though.
That's right. That's right. Let's get that
figure it all out after the UFC fight.
Right.
Dr.
McCormick. And, it's funny, actually, don't forget those fighters are they're stepping over each other to come out of retirement.
Oh, I know.
To get in that fight. John James, Conor McGregor, they're like, I want to be part of that. He's made it that popular that athletes are back on the Republican ticket. I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be the biggest fight card in the history of the UFC. And if we're talking like early prelims, and main event, if it's like 11, 12 fights, it's going to be the biggest card you can possibly get on. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be the biggest fight card ever.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm so excited.
Yes, sir. Dr. Rich McCormick, we appreciate your time. You know you're welcome on the show anytime, sir.
Likewise, guys. Appreciate you. Semper Fi.
Thank you.
Good dude there. And Rich McCormick, when we continue.
I'm telling you, we're going to reach out to his people. We're going to find a way to get to that fight, okay? You and me, we will pay our own way. We will make this thing happen.
I love it.
I just want to have the access.
Just help me get in. Help me get credentialed. That's all I need.
That's it. I just need to get credentialed.